Why do you think they killed him?
Why do they kill all holistic doctors?
Right.
Messing up the medical industry.
You short-stopping their grind. Why do niggas get killed for hustling in front of a nigga spot? You short-stopping the grind. And these niggas, they check is billions.
Yeah. Here come your brother. We coming with the message. You see, the message has not been expanded on, and it gives me the most delightful feeling to come to you for the first time, to share with you that which need to be touched upon, and we all should know. Sebi is coming to be with you and share with you a message from the ancestors, the alkali world. Yeah, we're gonna electrify the community.
Dr. Sebi, give it up for him. And bringing him out, Sister Marina.
A revolutionary man with an evolutionary message. We give thanks for Dr. Sebi being here with us today, bringing healing for the Black woman. Give thanks.
I was born in Spanish Honduras in the year of 1933. I was born in a small village named Milanga. The boy grew up, never going to school, whether kindergarten, high school, grade school, or whatever. I'm the little boy that never had a future, or shouldn't have a future. In fact, the mothers of the children that I used to play with used to tell them not to play with me because I hadn't been to school. That was okay with me. I was free. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being by the river. And as I grew, I was able to get these jobs, first a caddy at 11. I caddied from 11 to 13. I got a job with the dairy farm at 13, Mr. Montiel. I left there at 14 and went to work in the commissary for the Standard Food Company. I was 14 years old and I got a job as a clerk. And at 14, I made a statement that I was going to do something to help humanity. But when I made that statement, I also knew that I was going to come up against the established or prevailing philosophy of life. That I knew at 14 years of age. But I didn't know that one day that I would become the person that I'm known for today as being the healer. I didn't know that. And I left that when I was 20. Became a merchant seaman. But by the time he became a merchant seaman, he was very deadly ill. He had diabetes. He had asthma from birth. He was impotent at 28. And at 30, he had diabetes, asthma, obesity, and insanity. And with the help of Mexican people, I was cured. I decided to enter the field of natural medicine.
I came here as a Christian. I learned a lot of things, a lot of beautiful things in Christianity. And I joined Islam. I met the messenger. I knew Malcolm. And the Brotherhood, well, I used to be hungry many times and they fed me. This was in New Orleans. Then I got into Buddhism. And then I got into this. And what is this I got into? Something that has been hidden. Something that was very much necessary for you and I to know. But as I talk about my little life, I'm 81 now, it seems as though it went by so fast. I feel cheated. It went by so fast.
My mother wanted me to be a preacher. And I didn't want to go into the church. I said, who, me be a preacher? No, I'm not going to be a preacher. And look what I'm doing now. Look what I'm doing. My mother I called her on my birthday 2 days ago, and she was laughing. She was laughing. She said, you see, what I wanted you to do, what I see you doing, you're doing it. Only because people are being healed. That is the work of a shepherd. They told us that disease is the result of germ, virus, or bacteria. Am I right? Who said that? The Caucasian again. But how do you know that's true? Have we done any research independent to that of the European? He done his research. Fine. The Japanese did his. Good. But what about my mama? My mama needs representation too, isn't it? I want to hear what my mama have to say. When my mama said that there's no such thing as a germ, a virus, or a bacteria. What did you say, Dr. Sebi? This is in court. This is the Supreme Court of the United States. The judge said, what did you say? I said, there is no such thing as a germ, a virus, or a bacteria. Then what is it? I said, man, it is a microbe that is generated in the body when erosion begins. She said, explain that. I said, very simple. If I take a very healthy human being and lay them on the stable and not move them for a month, when I raise them, what are they going to have on their back? A bed sore. And inside that bed sore would be some little worms, isn't it? Sure. But where did the worms come from and where were they birthed? In the man himself. Ah, but why the bed sore? You didn't move that person. That part of him was lacking of oxygen. You never see bed sore on the top of the person. You see them on the bottom. The deprivation of oxygen causes all disease. The big mystery. You see how quick you learn that? Every disease that is manifested is caused by the deprivation of oxygen. You have it with a very healthy man. Lay him down and not move him. You will get a bed sore. I said, Your Honor, if I take a potato, place it inside of an oxygen-free vesicle, a vessel, 14 days later, you begin to see it break down. And then you see little worms coming out of the potato. Where did the worms come from? From across the street that invaded your potato? Or from inside the potato? From inside the potato. So when they talk about this virus, you think that it was something that you inhale in the air. No, because we were misled. The information that we all have had is sitting in our heads came from who? Who told us that carrots were good? Was it our mother? No. So when I say that carrots is no good, why should you get angry with me? You should be happy. But WNIB was not too happy. You see? They were angry. And all the health enthusiasts and the health promoters was offering us carrot juice for vitamin A. But there is nowhere in your body you have vitamin A to use that carrot. So therefore, assimilation is impossible. We go back again to the virus. Then they said, well, we threw out virus, right? Now we go to germ. They said that disease is the result of what? Germ, virus, or bacteria. But we just threw out virus because the man had a bed sore. And he got it because of what? Not moving him. His body was being deprived of oxygen. Now we go internal. When those cells cease to receive oxygen, they break down. And depending where the erosion is taking place, what disease you will have. If the erosion is in the nostril, it is what? Sinusitis. If it's in the bronchial tubes, it's bronchitis. If it's on the lung, it's pneumonia. Well, what's the difference with AIDS and pneumonia? What's the difference with AIDS and TB? There is no difference. I should know that. Remember, I was arrested and tried with practicing medicine without a license. You stood by and watched them arrest me. Because you were a little bit more asleep, you didn't get up and say, well, hold it, he's defending our mother. Let us go see how we could help this institute. But no, the institute, I especially was arrested and charged with practicing medicine without a license because I said what? I cure AIDS, blindness, diabetes, lupus, herpes, sickle cell, It sounds fantastic. It sounds gross. It sounds like it is impossible. Sure, it is impossible because we forgot our mother and we have been entertaining the Western medicine. Western medicine said that there's no cure for any disease. Didn't we believe it?
Well, that's right, Harold. He's an immigrant from Honduras who never went to school, college, or medical school. Yet the man known as Dr. Sebi claims to have found the cure for several life-threatening diseases, including AIDS. Too good to be true? Well, you be the judge.
The lump in Myrtle Rick's left breast is gone.
I haven't had any symptoms or problems, anything.
Sabrina Peterson's son no longer disabled by sickle cell anemia.
He has a lot of energy. I have to make him rest.
Disease is cured by this man. His name is Dr. Sebi, but he won't find a medical degree hanging from his wall. Instead, a certificate of healing.
We have complex things with science, but if we go back to God and use the herbs as God said, then you can see how simple it is. Then
Dr. Sebi believes what ails you can be cured with natural alkali herbs and a vegetarian diet solely made up of what he calls electric foods, mushrooms, greens, and rye breads without starch.
Hippocrates established the principle of medical science by using herbs to cure diseases, then why the physician using the chemicals?
40 years ago, a doctor in Mexico cured Sebi of diabetes, asthma, and obesity with the very same herbs and diet he dispenses to all of his patients, whether they're suffering from lack of energy or full-blown AIDS.
That package is an intracellular chelation. I'm removing plaque from the system. I'm removing inflammation. That is the base for all disease.
And according to a medical affidavit provided by Dr. Sebi, it's working. It shows a patient diagnosed with HIV in November of 1993 was cured 2 months later. Thousands of patients worldwide swear by his methods and natural herbal medicine.
In the year of 1985, the Usha Research Institute placed an ad in the Village Voice, the Amsterdam News, and the New York Post that AIDS has been cured by the Usha Research Institute. And we specialize in cures for sickle cell, lupus, herpes, blindness, cancer, insanity, impotence, and others. When the Attorney General saw this ad, he could not, under any circumstances, accept that this ad was representing something that was accomplished. According to him, this could not be true. But what the Attorney General of New York didn't know about those of us who are members of the Usha Research Institute is that we were aware that until that day of September of 1985, we were aware that until that date, September of 1985, there's no record. There are no records showing that someone somewhere on this planet had cured these diseases that before mentioned. So how could the Attorney General, Mr. Robert Abrams of New York, could have believed that this was possible? Now, it became a thing of confrontation, which was unnecessary. We said that this is the reconnection. But in the reconnection, we find carbon that we have yet to understand or to study carbon. We are told that melanin is what makes pigmentation the color that it is. We have been fed melanin like we have been fed protein, like we have been fed vitamins and enzymes. These are words that we have yet to dissect and to understand the meaning and their function, well, in the reconnection, we find that carbon is the determining factor in reference to life. The higher the concentration of carbon, the higher the quality of life. When carbon is absent, life is also absent. Biochemistry supports our position. Biochemistry shows that carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, three combined, has to be present for life to exist. But instead of us learning about the function of carbon and iron, we've been fed vitamins, protein, enzymes, and melanin. But when the question is asked about these particular substances, that is very important. One of the most important questions that should be asked, are they electrical? People seem to think that this question should not have been asked. Shouldn't have been asked. Is it electrical? Well, science shows us that that question should be asked. Why? Because the human body is electrical. And any substance that would assimilate and render the good or nutrition that we are searching and pursuing, that substance must necessarily be electrical. And then, if it is electrical, it will have a definite amount of electrons per atom, separating one element or mineral from the other. You see, in nature, everything lives by its own kind, with its own kind. Remember, we talk about chemical affinity. So when we reconnect, we find that carbon is the determining factor. So this talk is the carbon papers. Science shows that without carbon, life is very, very poor or non-existent. And this is where the compounds of the USHA Research Institute comes into play. We carefully selected from the forest plants that are the highest in electrical vibration. And ladies and gentlemen, we said that God begins and ends with everything. This forces us and compels us to go to the Holy Bible.
And lo and behold, here come the police. Are you Alfredo Bowman, a.k.a. Dr. Sebi? I am that person. Well, you here are indicted by the Supreme Court, the grand jury, practicing medicine without a license, claiming to cure AIDS, selling without the permission of the FDA. You going to jail. When I got to jail, the policeman or officer that's going to book me, put the numbers on my chest. He looked at the detective and said, "You guys messed up." The detective said, "Why?" "This man cures." I said, "How do you know that?" He said, because you cured me of gout. I said, I have never seen you. He said, I sent a black policeman to tell you that he had gout. He brought me the medicine. I don't have gout anymore. I asked him, why did you come? He said, because I heard one of your speeches, man, and I don't know if you love white people. I said, man, are you jiving? I think you're joking. I said, after all what you have done to us, we fight wars for you. We die for you. Can't you see who we are? We can't hate you. My DNA doesn't carry that message.
We're going to go back to 1988, 87, when I was arrested. Why? Because I put the ads in the newspapers, in the Amsterdam News, in the Village Voice, and the New York Post. AIDS has been cured by the USHA Research Institute. And we specialize in cures for sickle cell, lupus, herpes, cancer, and others. Well, a black man is going to put this kind of ad in the newspapers in New York in 1987, 85. You got to be insane. Number one, the state is not going to allow such a thing to prevail. And my brothers and sisters who I am addressing, and that my whole life work is for us. Why? Because we are the sickest. They didn't know anything about herbs, because the only thing that they knew about herbs is what was read or shown, what was written in the Back to Eden, Jethro Claus, Indian Herbology of North America by Alma Hutchins, The Herbalist by Myers, then you have Christopher from England, and then you have the Russian, Ivan Kirkikov, then you have the Brazilian, Hipólito Rodriguez. But I kept looking at all these books and the stuff that they were recommending, and nobody was being healed. By me working in the county, I had a use of a laboratory, and I began to do, hydrogen ion tests on the herbs. Why? Because I found out that the brothers that call themselves herbalists, 90% of the herbs that they're using today is still hybrids. They are hybrids. They're acid-based.
But when you were in New York, I wanted to make sure people know that there was a lot more to your making a decision to shift the way that you were allowing yourself to think, is to say that there are people who actually will literally make you an enemy because you're now threatening their livelihood. When you were in the States and you had that case in 1987, and one of the things I think is important for everybody to know that it doesn't really come out. And I think that when Dr. Sebi talks about this landmark case in 1987, he just brushes by it, like it's not really significant. But it is very significant. It's very significant because it's a landmark case. That landmark case also allows for you, as maybe one of many, who could say categorically, if you wanted to, that you cure. And they can't touch you because of that landmark case. So, cases, when they go into the Brooklyn Federal Court or Federal Court, they are now used as precedents for moving forward. And no one will stand up and say, well, I'm with Dr. Sebi, because he already has proven in federal court that you can now say that you cure these so-called incurable diseases. And as a result, you have been land-based, you have been criticized, you have been ridiculed, but at the same time, the evidence is in the results, and your results have been successful. One of the things I want to ask you to speak to in that light is what was your capacity to maintain your sense of focus in the face of all that controversy? Because it was rough.
I was, no, it wasn't rough at all.
No, it wasn't? Okay.
Look, and I could see why you said that, and it must have been rough to many people, and it seemed that way. But when I am asked now, you are the second person to ask me that question, and guess what? It was recently that I really saw the case, and I got scared.
30 years later, right, okay.
If I was conscious,
right,
fully conscious,
right,
of what I was doing in 1988,
you wouldn't be here now, right?
It wouldn't have been done.
Right.
Because I've been scared.
Right.
But I was on a vibration of life that I was focused on one thing, and don't talk to me about anything else. So it was that I was driven there. I was taken there. It wasn't on my own recognizance or my ingenuity or my scientific ability to dissect and analyze. None of that. I don't do that.
Fearlessness.
It was just that I was on the vibration because I was put there.
Right.
After the case was won and the verdict came back, I still didn't feel it until about 6 months ago.
Wow.
I said, oh my God. But more than that, I didn't win for me.
Right. It was a victory for the people.
I win for us.
For the people, right.
We, the black people of the world, have the right to select for ourselves a modality that complements our cellular predisposition. That cannot be denied of us. What we did prove in 1988 is that the only therapeutical approach that is complementary to our biological structure is the African biomineral balance against all the yin-yang, the macrobiotic, the Ayurvedic. Man, I don't want to hear that because I know that they're wrong. They're using starch and they're using lactose.
But one of the things that's important about this case, because I was one of those who was in the courtroom. You couldn't even get in the courtroom for that matter, because the courtroom was so packed. But the point is that the people who were there, these are observers. These are people who were confessing and giving testimonials of the healing, and not just by saying he healed me, like the Jesus of Nazareth. But trust me, it was like that. People were coming in with all manner of diseases and with proof of what they had from the homeopathic.
That's right.
And they would say, this is where I was after the cellular cleanses, this is who I am. And they couldn't help but deal with the facts. And so I'm saying, that was just astounding, but you didn't get the same type of press you got, in condemning you.
It was ugly.
Oh, it was horrible. In that sense, because they were trying to make sure that you didn't get the worldwide press that you needed. But it's interesting that when the judge, and I said this to the people before we got on air, the judge was a woman judge.
And Feldman.
And oh yeah, right. After it was over, and the verdict was, of course, in the favor of truth. She said, before y'all leave, make sure I get some of that soul food, and yeah. Am I lying, Dr. Sebi?
She became my patient.
One of the
That's
clients.
correct.
One of his best clients.
That today.
I'm telling you, and that's a powerful thing. It's a powerful testimony and testament to what you represent and who you are for our ancestors.
God tell us that the herbs are for the healing of the nations. In the book of Genesis, in the book of Ezekiel, in the book of Exodus, and the book of Revelation, it says that the herbs are for the healing of the nations. The Holy Bible teaches us in the book of Genesis that the herbs are for the healing of the nations. The book of Ezekiel 47:12 repeats the herbs are for the healing of the nations. We again go to the last book in the Holy Bible. The herbs are for the healing of the nations. So, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, God shows us in the first book, in the middle book, and in the last book, just in case that we overlook one, we will get it in the other. And if we miss the other, we get it in the last. So shouldn't the question be asked, are we willingly neglecting God and disobeying the mandate of God? Are we doing that willfully, knowing that this is one of the greatest violations? We talk about being obedient. Of course. It is obedience that gets us the things from the Almighty that we so desire. But how many of us are obedient to that dictate? Very few of us. I hope that I'm one of them. It says in the Bible that the herbs are for the healing of the nations. If Jesus cured with herbs, Hippocrates cured with herbs, and God said the herbs, then what's up? Why aren't we curing with herbs today?